Guys, it's September the 19th, 2024, and I hope everybody's having a wonderful day out there on this Thursday. It is currently early in the morning on Thursday, and just trying to go ahead and get this video done for today. But what I want to talk about is something that's been on my mind all this week, and what that is relapse. And I know I just discussed this on Friday. I talked about that gentleman. I think her name was Shelly, who shared the story of her husband. And her husband had 30 years of sobriety and then turned in his chip one day for a Budweiser. And then within a matter of 3 years, that gentleman's already in a huge mess, drinking every day again, dealing with all of the stuff that comes along with excessive drinking, throwing up every morning, not eating anymore, defecating on himself. I mean, just the whole nine. And that's a real possibility. That can happen to each and every single one of us if we're not careful. And that's why I want to talk about this today. Wherever you're at in your sobriety, beware. And I'm not saying that to scare anybody. And I'm not saying that to say that, you're going to relapse, because that's not the case. But I want everybody to be aware of relapse and to be careful of relapse. Because it is a real phenomenon and it happens to a lot of people. And I think when a majority of that begins to happen is, after we get through a period of sobriety and we start to feel comfortable in our sobriety again. And then we start to get this idea that we're cured. And we get this idea in our head that we can go ahead and have a couple of drinks on a Friday night or whatever it is. And it's just not the case. When we start to think that we've got control of the alcohol, it will quickly show us that we don't know what we're talking about, because it's so deceptive. We go back into it thinking, I've got it this time. I can't tell you how many times that I said that to myself. I would get, a week, 2 weeks underneath my belt, and then I would just, tell myself, I've got it this time. And, my thing was I always went to the store and I always got beer. That was always my first thing that I did, because I always had this idea that beer is not as bad as drinking liquor. And if I could drink beer and keep that under control, then everything would be A-okay. And that's just never the way it worked out. Every time that happened with me, I would go to the store, get a 6-pack of beer, and I always had to get the highest test beer that they had at the gas station or the grocery store. And I would make a trip to, at first I would try the gas station. If they didn't have the beer I was looking for, then I went to the grocery store because I knew they had it there. And, we were talking about alcohol percentages that were, 11, 12% or whatever they were. I can't remember exactly, but I know they're way up there. I mean, you could taste the alcohol in them when you drank them, and they were really strong, hoppy IPAs that I would play around with. But I was trying to get the strongest beer. I didn't go in there and grab Bud Light or Budweiser or something like that. I got what, the equivalent of drinking one of those would be 3 regular beers or 4 beers, equivalent to that. So that right there, just already showed, my addicted mind and how it was working and how I was fooling myself. Because once again, I didn't walk into the store and just buy a 12-pack of Miller Lite or Miller High Life or something like that, or Bud Light, or, Michelob Ultras or any of that kind of stuff. And I'm sorry to trigger anybody. I'm just talking about this. I didn't buy those really, light beers. I always had to get the very strong beer. And once again, I was always fooling myself. Once I had to get the strongest one because I wanted to get drunk off of the beer. And it was always this idea, well, I'm going to show my wife I can just drink beer. And that's all I'm going to drink. I won't drink any more liquor. It's only going to be beer from here on out. But 1-2 days into it, I was already back at the liquor store buying shooters. And then before you know it, I had a bottle of vodka. and I was right back at where I was at before, or worse. I was carrying around my water bottle with me everywhere I went, all over again. I had shooters in my socks. They were hidden in my underwear, hidden everywhere. I was back to hiding liquor in the woods. I was back to hiding liquor underneath the house. I was back to hiding liquor in the closet, And for some reason, I don't know what this is all about, and I've spoken to so many people about this, but for some reason, when we hide our alcohol, we always put it back in the same place. I just don't get that, but it's just something. I was talking with somebody that's going to be coming on the show here soon, and we had a long conversation. I think it was last weekend when we talked. I can't remember exactly when it was. Gosh, when was that? I don't know. It was last week, I think, is when I spoke with him. But we had a very long conversation, and we were talking about about, how all the hiding places where we would stash our booze. And he said, I would do the same thing. The guy's married as well, and he was doing the same thing. He would take his booze and keep hiding it in the same hiding places over and over and over again. And his wife would find it. And I did the same thing too. I would, there were a couple places that I continually hid things, and one of them was up on the top of our cabinets in the kitchen. I would always just take the bottle and just stick it up on top of that counter. My wife is not tall enough to see all the way up there. So I would just take the bottle, slide it up on top of the cabinets, and figured, okay, everything is safe. I can go to bed, and she's not going to find it. Well, my wife just got a chair and climbed up there, and the thing is that that's the first place that she always looked, because she knew that I always put the liquor back in the same place over and over and over again. I did it every single time. And there were other multiple hiding places I would put them at, like in the closet between the towels. I would slide it in there, or in between bed sheets. I would slide it, the stacked bed sheets in the closet. I would kind of slide the bottle in there. But I just had multiple hiding places and another place where I used to hide my stuff would be like in the jacket pockets. I would hide shooter bottles inside jacket pockets inside of my closet. My wife knew every single time where to go look for those. But back to what I was talking about, every single time that I would relapse and think that I've got it under control this time, start drinking beer again, it was just a matter of time. I mean, we're talking either hours, because often I would go to the store, buy a 6-pack of beer, tell my wife, this is it, I'm just drinking beer, nothing else. And then next thing you know, I really need to go get some cigarettes right now. And I wasn't going to the store to get cigarettes. I was going to the liquor store. And it would often be that same day because the beer just wasn't cutting it. Now, there were some times where I did get some, a good amount of days in. And when I would go back and drink that beer, I would catch a pretty nice little buzz. My tolerance had come down just a little bit. So it might be the next day when I went to the liquor store, but it always happened. I never stuck with beer for more than 2-3 days. I would say probably the second day I was always at the store buying liquor because I just could not just drink beer. I just couldn't stick with it. And, the funny thing about it is that here recently, guess what I've been thinking about? I've been thinking about beer, and I don't know why. I don't know why that's coming up in my mind again and why I've been thinking about that. I was just telling my wife last night, I was sitting in our bedroom getting my medication ready before bed, and I just told her, I said, I don't know why, but here recently I've been thinking a lot about beer. And she goes, that's funny, because you would think that you would think about liquor. And I told her, no, I'm not thinking about liquor at all. That hasn't even crossed my mind. But beer has crossed my mind, and I don't know why that is. Is it because it's still warm here? I don't know. And my wife said something, something I talk about on here a lot. But she said it, and she said, I'll bet you that you're thinking about all the good times that you used to have when you drank beer. Because I did have a lot of really good times when I drank beer. And during those years of my beer drinking, I did a lot of adventuring. I just did a lot of fun stuff. And, my alcoholism hadn't gotten completely out of control at that point to where it was completely controlling my life. Now, I was a problem drinker, a major problem drinker. I drank every single day. but it wasn't hindering my life completely at that point yet. I was getting up in the morning, drinking the hair of the dog. I was drinking beer early in the morning during those years. Especially in my late 20s, I would get up and crack a beer in the morning. Especially on inventory days. Those were the days when I really would, get up that morning and have a beer, because I had to be up at work so early in the morning. And for some reason, I always had inventory on Mondays. So on Sunday night, I would get wasted drunk, and then I had to be up at 4 a.m. because I had to be at work at 5. And, I'd wake up in the morning, still be a little bit intoxicated. And, I would drive to work first thing in the morning, and there'd be nobody at the restaurant. And, I was the first one in. So I would just go to the beer cooler and get myself a beer and pour it into a styrofoam cup and walk around drinking that in the morning. Like I drink my coffee now, I was walking around with a beer in a cup doing inventory. God, thinking about those days. But my point is that for some reason, beer has been on my mind lately. Am I going to relapse? No, I'm not going to go back to that. Am I 100% safe from it? Absolutely not. Not even me. I'm not. It could happen any day. I can make that decision and drive right off to the store right after I finish filming this video today and go get a 6-pack or a 12-pack of beer if I really wanted to, but that's not what I want to do. I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about the fact that, we're so close every day, sometimes to making that decision. We have a really bad day, and the first thing that pops in our head is having a drink. Or something happens, we get into a big fight with our spouse or somebody that we're really close with. The first thing we do is think about that drink. We're just having a bad day in general, or we're having a really good day. And that's another one of the things we have to be careful for. Because I used to drink for every single reason under the sun, and especially on good days. I just got a raise. Well, I have to get drunk. I just bought something. I have to get drunk. Whatever it is, I have to get drunk because it's a good day. So we have to be careful of those good days too, because the thoughts can pop up in our mind on those good days as well. But once again, if we're having a bad day, if we're having a good day, and those thoughts start to arise in our head, and we start to think about it, and we start to get those nostalgic feelings again, thinking about all the good times that we had when we drank, and how much the alcohol reduced our stress, and how we just want to feel that euphoric feeling again. Because I get that feeling all the time. I still do. I wouldn't be on here talking about this every single day if I didn't have cravings every single day, just about. And I would say that at least once a day, at least, I think about alcohol. I'm not immune to it. I still think about it all the time. I still have that little person on my shoulder that's talking to me and telling me it will be okay. Go get that 6-pack. You can have a 6 and nobody's gonna know. I've got that little devil on my shoulder telling me that stuff all the time. Nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna find out. My wife leaves and goes to work, and she's gone all day long. My kids are at school. My daughter's in college. I'm home all day, most of the days by myself, except for on the weekends. Yesterday afternoon was a little bit different because my kids had early release yesterday, and they were home all afternoon. But most days, there's nobody here. And I could leave and go to the store and get a 6-pack, come back home, and nobody would know. But I would know, and then my wife would know, and then everything would fall apart from there forward. Number one, if I was to drink, my pancreas would probably go right into pancreatitis. And, there's no hiding that. And it's not like if I went to the hospital, they're not going to know that I was drinking again. And then here we go, all over again, dealing with all this stuff. And now I've got, everybody's not going to trust me again. I'm going to lose all that trust that I've gained back. And the reason I'm talking about this today is because I just want you to think about, if you start to get those thoughts, that little person on your shoulder that's whispering in your ear and telling you, it's going to be okay. Nobody's going to know, just for today. And that's it. You can drink today and you won't drink again for the rest of the week. You're always making those deals with yourself. You know what I mean? You're like, you're waging with yourself. You're just making those deals. It's like, if I get this yard work done today, then I deserve to have a beer, and just one, or one 6-pack, or one 12-pack, or I deserve to make myself a mixed drink, or I deserve a glass of wine. It's always these deals that we cut with ourselves. And then we get there, and man, is that drink good. But it doesn't last for long. That euphoric feeling does not last for long. That guilt and that shame is going to sink in pretty quickly. I know it used to for me all the time, because I always had these like super high hopes that drink was going to be so magnificent when I got it. It was like this idea that I was going to get that drink and just all of my problems were going to melt away, and I was going to feel so great. Well, that never happened. And as a matter of fact, it was the complete opposite. As soon as I got like one drink down, I realized this isn't what I wanted it to be. I had this hyped up thought in my head of what the feeling was going to feel like, and it didn't feel that way. As a matter of fact, I felt shameful. I felt guilty. I felt nasty. I felt like a liar, like a thief, like a deceiver. I felt horrible about myself. And the reason I'm talking about this today is that if you get those thoughts, if you ever are getting those thoughts in your mind, and they keep popping up, and that little person on your shoulder is whispering to you and telling you that it's going to be okay. You can have just one. You can control it this time. You know that you really want to have that one drink. Don't give in to that. Don't let those lies get into your head, because that's what they are. They're lies. As soon as we relapse, it's, one of the reasons I think that we end up drinking as bad as we do after we relapse is because of the guilt and the shame. And we're trying to drink that away after the fact. After we have given in and drank once again, we feel so guilty and so shameful that we're trying to drink away those feelings. And then it just ends up being 10 times worse. Don't give in to that. Remember why you're here and why you're sober. You remember those mornings waking up puking? Those mornings sitting on the toilet with diarrhea? Your stomach hurts all day long. That headache, that pounding headache all day long. That feeling of embarrassment because you said or did something the night before and you just cannot believe that you did that. You know what I'm talking about. That work party that you went to, you had a little work party after your meeting and you guys went to the bar and you had one too many and said something that you can't take back, or you said something to your boss that you can't take back, or you got into an argument with one of your coworkers at the bar, or you did something that you probably shouldn't have done with a coworker. Fill in the blanks. I don't need to go into detail. There's a million reasons why not to drink anymore. Because we just make really poor decisions when we drink. We do. We get behind the wheel and drive our car when we're intoxicated and risk getting a DUI and going to jail and or hurting ourselves or someone else. We go to work after we've been drinking and potentially risk losing our jobs and our livelihoods, especially if we have, families that we're trying to support, and then we go to work drunk and then we lose our job, and then you're gonna have to explain that to your family. You're gonna have to explain that to your husband or your wife or and your children or whatever, why you lost your job because you couldn't keep your drinking under control and you went to work intoxicated. And it's not like this is like, something that I'm making up. I used to do it every single day. I've spoken to so many people on here that are drinkers that did the same exact things as me. I've had so many people tell me, man, your story is exactly like my story. I have done the same exact thing. Just this morning, I was looking at a comment where this gentleman was talking about my story reflected his exactly. He would get up in the morning, have a drink, puke, sit on the toilet for a couple hours, drink while he was sitting on the toilet. Then he would go take a shower, drink while he was in the shower, puke in the shower. I mean, these are all things that I did every single day too. And he said, your story resembles mine to a T. I mean, there are a lot of people out there like that. And you don't want to go back to that life again if your life had gotten to that point, no matter where your addiction led you to. No matter whether it's alcohol or drugs or whatever it is, you think back and remember at one of those worst moments of your addiction and where you were at and how disappointed you were in yourself that you had lost complete control. And just think about all the bad parts about it. Don't think about the good stuff, because that stuff is so far few in between. There are some nostalgic memories that we all have. We all had good times when we were drinking. All of us have. I'm sure that every single one of you watching this right now has had a good time drinking. And a lot of times, those are the thoughts that pop back up in our head. And we start thinking about, man, I'll never forget that time I was at the beach and we were drinking all day and it was such a good time. Yeah, it was a good time. But did you remember the next day? Do you remember that? Because I've had so many hangovers, I can't even remember. And I mean, thousands of them. I mean, literal thousands of hangovers. It's 365 days in a year. I know I drank for at least, super bad for at least 20 years. And like really, really, really bad for 12. 10 years would be 3,650 days. So, 65 days, whatever. But my point is that I have thousands of hungover days. I can't remember every single one of them. I do have these like couple of memories bouncing around in my head of some really good time that I had at the lake or the beach or whatever it is, or sometime I went on vacation and the drinking was all kinds of fun. And but I never remember that hangover. And those hangovers are horrible. And not to mention everything else that comes along when we relapse. If anything else, the trust that we lose, because people aren't going to trust you anymore. Being able to just drive to the grocery store, to the gas station whenever you please without someone questioning you, or when you walk in the door and somebody wanting to pat you down or look through your stuff or empty your pockets or open up your car doors or your trunk and look underneath your spare tire because they think that you're probably drinking again. You know how irritating that is. Especially if you really aren't drinking. You really are trying to put forth the effort and get sober, and somebody's still checking behind you. That can be really frustrating. Why, if you've gotten past all of that at this point and you've been sober for quite some time, don't give in to those thoughts. It's just your addiction tricking you. That's all it is. Those thoughts can linger for a long time. How long will it last? I don't know. How long will it last for me? I have no idea. I still think about alcohol. I was thinking about it last night. Have I thought about it today? No. I was thinking about it a lot yesterday, though. Last night, of course, and last night was like, I was really thinking about beer. I could almost taste it. I was thinking about it so much. I can't control that. Those thoughts just pop up. What I can do is control if I go to the store and go get that alcohol or not, or if I choose to pour it into a cup and indulge again. I just don't do it. And you can do the same thing. Just hang in there. Give it 15 minutes. That feeling's going to pass. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing does. So with that, those cravings, those feelings, they will go away eventually. Just hang in there for a few minutes and it will pass. Do something. Try some breathing exercises. Slam a bottle of water. Do whatever it is. Just get your mind off of it. There's all kinds of like tapping techniques that you can do on your wrist and tapping on your temple and all this kind of stuff. Find something, get a fidget spinner or something and play with that for the next 15 minutes until the feeling goes away. I don't know, but don't give in to it, because trust me when I tell you, going back to that is not worth it. You do not want to have to deal with all that over again, and then going through that whole process all over again, having to start all over again, and then go through those withdrawals and all that stuff after you try to quit again. It's not worth it. It really isn't. You've made it this far. Stay sober. Do not give in. Trust me when I tell you, I know from firsthand experience that it is not worth it. It is not. Because excessive drinking is going to destroy your health. It's going to destroy your family. It's going to destroy, you can end up in jail. Or you might end up in the hospital. It just destroys everything in its path. Don't give in to it. Stay sober today, guys. Giving in is not worth it. Trust me when I tell you. That's all I have to say for today. I just really wanted to touch on that. It's been on my mind all this week. The thing is that none of us are safe. And we have to be on top of our guard and stay sober and stay safe. And don't give in to those thoughts. With that said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really do enjoy it. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you on tomorrow's video. You guys have a great day.